Hello everybody, Dr. Jenkins here, and this is going to be our lecture for pharmacological and chemical ergogenic aids. I'm excited about this one. Now, you're not going to have to know every single detail of every single thing, but what I really want to get across to you is I want you to pay attention, see what the purported mechanism of action really is of ergogenic aids, and then whether it actually does what it says it does, and then of course, is it safe? So this is going to be a 2-chapter section. We have the first chapter, which is on our pharmacological or chemical ergogenic aids, and then our next one is on nutritional. So we've got these ergogenic aids separated into 2 categories: pharmacological, which means that they're made of chemicals or synthetic things, and then nutritional, which would be ergogenic aids that are made by nutritional byproducts. So here we go. We're going to do a little bit of a definition and history, and then we're going to get right into it. So here are the list of chemical or pharmacological ergogenic aids we're going to cover in this one. And then you're going to watch the next video on the nutritional ergogenic aids. Okay, so I'd like you to be able to define ergogenic aid. It is something that is used to try to improve performance. If you want to be more specific, we can be used to improve exercise capacity, athletic performance, and responsiveness to training and or recovery. But really, an ergogenic aid is something that is taken to improve athletic performance. Whether it's trying to, apparently I can't talk at the same time as I'm writing right now. Improve performance. Whether it's trying to actually make you build more muscle so you can perform better, whether it's trying to help you deliver more oxygen to your muscles, whether it's trying to help you recover. But really, it's under the umbrella of something that's trying to improve athletic performance. Now, I want to go back for a moment, and I want to make sure that we understand the difference between an ergogenic aid and a supplement, because by definition, they are different. A lot of times we tend to use them interchangeably, but by definition, they're different. Remember, a supplement is something that we take to, how can I say this more simply? It's something that we take to, having a brain fart here. A brain fart and how to do it simply. Something that we take to replace what we can't get through food. That's an easy way to do it. Can't get through food. So in other words, a supplement would be, I'm going to take vitamin D because I've looked at my diet and for whatever reason, I'm not able to get enough vitamin D through my diet. So a supplement is meant to supplement something that you cannot get through food. I'm going to supplement iron because I'm not able to get enough through food. I'm going to supplement with protein because I'm a vegetarian, and even though I've been trying really hard, I can't get enough through my regular diet. So please make sure you know the difference. A supplement is something that we take that's meant to replace something that we're not getting through our normal diet. An ergogenic aid is something that is taken to improve performance. It's very specific. Ergogenic aid, something that is taken to improve performance. Now, when we talk about ergogenic aids, as you can well imagine, this has been going on for a long time. With improvements in technology, it's really taken off in the last 10, 15, 20 years. But it's nothing new. And, I think you've can tell by this point that I tend to be pretty skeptical, for good reason, because a lot of these ergogenic aids and supplements, because they're not regulated, are completely unsafe. They're allowed to say pretty much whatever they want on the label. And most of these things, in addition to not being safe, potentially, don't do what they say they do, right? And the MO for these companies is money, not necessarily doing what's best. So that's why I'm skeptical. However, it is absolutely human nature to want to be better, faster, stronger, easier. If I can be better, faster, stronger in an easier way, well, that's human nature to want to try that. So this has been going on since the first Olympic Games. So you don't need to know all of these, but I'm just trying to give you a historical context. As I have said, more recently, in the last several decades, the internet, social media has really blown these ergogenic aids out of the water. There's a lot of a scary future in many ways. You don't need to know this transgenic nutraceuticals or whatever. It's just one example. But technology has a way of potentially taking it into some places that are not only just not safe, but potentially morally questionable. I'm not going to ask you about this now, but I hope that I'm providing you with a healthy skepticism. Okay, why am I so skeptical? Because ergogenic aids, just like supplements, are not regulated by the FDA. Yes, in some instances, the FDA now requires companies to submit paperwork, but is there any real oversight? No. When we compare supplements and ergogenic aids to medications given from a pharmacy or just food that you buy in the grocery store, those are well regulated. Food, drugs are tested to make sure that they contain what they say they do. In order to be accepted by the FDA and approved by the FDA, these drugs, Tylenol, for example, has to go through many, many clinical trials. I understand that sometimes it's a really big hill to climb, so I'm not opposed to maybe streamlining the FDA approval, because I know that it can be very difficult. But the reason behind it is very sound. We want to make sure that our consumers are safe. And there's no true regulation by the FDA over any of these ergogenic aids. Anybody can produce them as long as they provide the paperwork. The general population is not well educated on these ergogenic aids, and really, why would they? If it's not your area of expertise, of course you're not going to be well educated. And we rely on companies to provide us with accurate information, but that is not their primary goal. So please keep these things in mind. When it comes to legality, you're going to see that I'm going to give a lot of examples of NCAA, and that's just because this is a college class, and it's an easy way for us to look at legality from sporting organizations. Unfortunately, this got cut off, but it's the 20 most recent banned supplement list from the NCAA. It is extensive. I said this to my class in person recently. I've just redone these PowerPoints, and that's why I'm redoing this video. And I am astounded at, even in the last 10 years, how much has changed. The NCAA banned list has never been so long. Social media technology has made this explode. And again, not regulated, potentially not safe. Most of these things when we do scientific research on them, do not work. And the NCAA, for example, has had to update their list substantially. And it's not because, do you really think that the NCAA makes these lists because all these things work? No. The NCAA makes these lists because these supplements are not safe and they don't want to be sued. That's the real reason why, right? It's not because they work. And of course, they will tell you they're worried about a level playing field, and I'm sure that they are to a certain extent. But the real reason why this list is so long has less to do with making a level playing field and much more to do with safety and not wanting to get sued. So this came right from the NCAA's website, and they're saying the same things that I'm saying, right? Dietary supplements and ergogenic eggs are not well regulated. Many dietary supplements and ergogenic aids, of course, are contaminated with banned drugs. Okay, so I just want to point this out. There's going to be some things that we talk about that are on this list. For example, we're going to talk about caffeine. You might think, oh, I can have a cup of coffee before an event or an energy drink. What we're going to find is caffeine in certain amounts is banned. Not caffeine at all, caffeine in certain amounts. There might be some things on here that surprise you. If I go down to beta-2 agonist, albuterol. If you're an NCAA athlete and you're taking a medication, you're going to have to submit a form from your doctor to the NCAA. Why? Because some people who don't need it medically can take it as a dilator of your airways to potentially improve performance. We're going to talk about a lot of these. We're going to talk about growth hormone. We're going to talk about EPO, erythropoietin. We're going to talk about caffeine and its cousin guarana. We're going to talk about amphetamines. Of course, we're going to talk about testosterone. So this list is growing. And this is just evidence of the growth in the industry and the growth of its availability and advertising. I wanted to show you some other things that I pulled right off the NCAA website. Look, there are no NCAA-approved nutritional or dietary supplements. Folks, that never used to be on there. So you think I'm an old lady talking about, all this and not being in favor. But the NCAA is responding in kind because things are very much out of control, in my opinion, but I think theirs too, and they just want people to be safe. So according to them, there are no NCAA-approved supplements. Wow. Holy moly. In addition, they're really covering their ass. I know, CYA is what we call it. They say there's no complete list of banned substances. So even though they give you a list of categories, this is a list of categories with some examples. Look, some examples. Even at the bottom it says, any substance that is chemically related, even if it's not listed as an example, is also banned. There's so many out there that the NCAA can't even produce a complete list. And things are also always changing. So I want you to know that this is going on. And it's some of these banned substances have been shown to be really unsafe, and they're in things that you might be surprised. Look, this is straight from the NCAA. Products that may result in a failed drug test. Wow, caffeine. In addition, supplements such as pre-workout. I gotta be honest, folks, I never heard of that. I've been an athlete, as you can probably tell from my bio and from me talking so much. 4 Ironmans, 6 marathons, countless half Ironmans. I mean, never heard of that because it's new. And you just wait. In 10 years, you're going to look back and in 10 years, something new is going to come out and you're going to say, never heard of it. And the younger people are going to be like, how come you never heard of it? Because these companies will come up with something new every so often to make money. Pre-workout is problematic, and I'm going to talk about it later. But look, the NCAA lists it. Supplements such as pre-workout are not regulated by the FDA and thus may contain ingredients that can cause an athlete to fail a drug test. I am not making this up. Look, energy drinks, yep, they can contain some things that will cause you to fail a drug test as well. All right, so let's get into the groove here. I'm off my soapbox temporarily. What you're going to see is for each ergogenic aid, I'm going to try and follow a similar structure. I'll give you examples of that ergogenic aid, what it is, how it works, what are its purported ergogenic aid benefits, how is it supposed to improve performance. Then we're going to talk about, is there research, is it safe, and is it legal? All right, so we're going to start off with the big boy. Anabolic steroids, testosterone. Please ignore these arrows whenever I transfer a PowerPoint over to my iPad so I can do this. Sometimes these arrows show up and I don't know why, but just ignore them, please. Anabolic steroids. I've put up some recent pictures. You can buy this online. I could buy these if I really wanted to, right? You can buy them on a host of websites. Let's talk about what steroids are. If an athlete is taking anabolic steroids, they're taking something, a synthetic version of the hormone testosterone. In other words, synthetic means fake or processed. Anabolic steroids are a processed version of what we naturally make testosterone. Women have testosterone, men have testosterone. Of course, men have much more testosterone than women. I would like you to know what I'm underlining. So, anabolic steroids, you're basically taking extra testosterone, something that our body makes naturally, but if we take it more, it can have a performance benefit. You need to know that there are two components to what testosterone does to us. So testosterone, we have it naturally, right? Testosterone has anabolic effects and androgenic effects. And you cannot separate the two very easily. So when someone takes testosterone in the form of an anabolic steroid, the goal is to have the anabolic effects. However, anytime we have testosterone, it's always going to have some androgenic effects. So make sure you know what each is. Anabolic effects would be the part where it builds muscle. The word anabolic comes from anabolism, which means to build. So testosterone can, in fact, build muscle, and that is the anabolic effect. However, testosterone also comes with androgenic effects. Androgenic effects would be development of secondary male sex characteristics. Let me be specific here. Secondary male sex characteristics. You're probably already thinking what these are. So this would be deepening of voice. Again, I cannot spell right now. I don't know what's going on. So it deepens voice, hair growth, those types of things. Basically, think of things that happen at puberty, because that is what's happening at puberty. So for a boy who reaches puberty, all of a sudden there's a huge increase in testosterone. And they will start to lay down more muscle tissue, but they will also start to experience secondary male sex characteristics. Getting taller, deepening of voice, hair growth in other places, including their legs, but face and etc. Most steroids that we take in have a 1-to-1 ratio. So everything I'm underlining you need to know. it is very difficult, if not impossible, to separate the androgenic from the anabolic effects. So an athlete, of course, is interested in the anabolic effects. But testosterone being what it is also going to give you the androgenic effects. All right. An athlete is concerned with the anabolic effects. Testosterone is purported to increase lean muscle mass, increase muscle power. This does not work on aerobic or cardiovascular health. Does it work? Yes. Here is an example of an ergogenic aid that does work. Of course it works, right? We produce some testosterone, can help you build more muscle. So if I bring in more, I can make more muscle, which means I can sprint a little bit faster, which means I could lift that weight a couple more times at a heavier weight. What are some of the short-term effects? Well, it's going to increase your male characteristics, but that could also lead to some adverse effects. Acne, mood changes. You need to know what I'm underlining. Roid rage, you've heard of it, it's a thing. The long-term effects, guess what? Long-term, and this could even occur if you were to take, for a male, if they were to take additional testosterone through steroids over weeks or months, even weeks, testicular atrophy. Their testes will shrink. Atrophy means to get smaller. When someone takes synthetic testosterone, their body is going to naturally reduce its own production of testosterone. If you're bringing in more, the body's going to get that signal and say, well, if you have more from another source, why do I need to make as much? So this is a very common side effect. It is most likely reversed unless you take crazy amounts. There are some potential cardiovascular long-term effects. But the one that I would like you to know is testicular atrophy. So I went online, right? This is why I'm updating these, because I haven't done this in a while and things have changed. So I went to a website where I could actually buy this myself if I wanted to. So Adderall 50, according to the website, it can improve muscle gain, muscle growth, increase strength. Well, looks great, doesn't it? Well, then I click on ingredients, and I really would like to encourage you to do the same. Do a little bit of research on their website. Don't just take it blindly. So when I put up the ingredients, 400 milligrams muscle building matrix, I don't know what that is. Muscle building matrix. It didn't say what it was on the website. So I don't know. I mean, this was advertised as an anabolic steroid. The name signifies anabolic steroid, but it doesn't really tell me, which is concerning, right? But then, this is new. This is not how it used to be. Why are these other things in here? Dandelion root powder? Garlic powder? Wild yam powder? And then creatine? This wasn't the case 15 years ago. There wasn't so much stacking. What I think is happening is these companies are trying to compete with each other, right? The markets have just increased. Access availability has gone through the roof. People are recording videos on TikTok. Look, I took this and look at how I look. So in an attempt to try and stand out on the market, what I think is happening is they're just throwing extra stuff in there, right? Why do you need creatine when you're already taking steroids? We're going to talk about creatine later. But when we have this stacking effect, you don't know what you're doing when it all adds up together, right? Because you might take steroids for, well, hopefully you don't, but someone might take steroids And then they're also taking creatine. And then they're also taking an energy drink. And then they're also having pre-workout. And because there's multiple ingredients in all of these, you may not realize how much creatine you're actually taking. So you're going to be putting yourself more at risk for these side effects. And furthermore, according to my research, dandelion root powder, garlic powder, wild yam powder have no scientific basis for improving performance. I also went on to see an injectable steroid. So here, in this case, they did tell me what kind of testosterone, cypionate. Okay, that's legitimate. They tell me how much, right? But I wanted to show you the other things. This verbiage has come directly from the website where they were advertising this particular testosterone steroid supplement. Look, the cypionate ester is just a form that they make that synthetic testosterone into, makes its release into slow. Hold on. The cypionate ester of cypionate makes its release slow and therefore requires less injections. So they're trying to stand out. Look, if you take this, the way that we build this particular chemical, it requires less frequent injections. They even tell you, look, testosterone is both anabolic and androgenic in nature. Users of cypionate will notice a dramatic gain in muscle mass, as well as an overall sense of well-being and increased libido. Well, increased libido is one of those androgenic effects. Of course, they didn't want to mention that your testicles could atrophy, or you're going to get more acne or have mood shifts. Continuing along, again, this is the verbiage directly from their website. I do appreciate that they're specific. Testosterone aromatizes very easily, and therefore estrogen can build up. So I'm going to talk about this next. If someone, and I've heard students in my lab say it right within earshot of me, so I know people take it, right? And on one hand, it's the easy way out. Who wouldn't want to get bigger, faster, stronger? But I just want to remind you that these are not regulated, not safe, especially a hormone. You're putting something into your body that has very wide-reaching effects, and you just want to be careful. One thing that people may not realize is testosterone is very similar to estrogen in structure. And when a male takes in excess testosterone, because remember, they're already producing testosterone, but now they're injecting more. Well, their body will have extra testosterone. One thing it does with that is it converts testosterone into estrogen. When the male body has more testosterone than it's used to or than it needs, it will convert some of the testosterone into estrogen. It's a thing. And they're telling us that estrogen buildup can become an issue. So they're even telling you, you know how to handle that? Buy something else that we sell. Choose an anti-estrogen pill. You could get some from us, such as anastrozole, Proviron, tamoxifen, to help keep estrogen-related side effects to a minimum. Well, they actually do tell you about, that when you take synthetic testosterone, the male body, particularly, will quickly shut down its own natural production. So I'm not making this stuff up, right? So, you need to know gynecomastia. The colloquial name for this is man boobs. Haha. When the male body has more testosterone than it can handle, one way to easily handle that excess, it's very hard to break down testosterone and pee out the remnants. It's very difficult for the body. Hormones travel through the bloodstream, and they can affect pretty much any tissue. They're very powerful. So the body, if you have excess, they can be hard for the body to handle. And one thing that the male body will do is convert testosterone into estrogen. Look at their chemical structure. It's almost identical. So it's an easy conversion to make. Prolonged testosterone use can make men develop breast tissue, fatty breast tissue. And that, I'd like you to know what that is. So gynecomastia is the condition when males generate fatty breast tissue. Because when there's excess testosterone, the male body will convert that excess testosterone back into estrogen. Are anabolic steroids legal? No. You should know that. Not for athletics. I would like you to know, as an aside, so what you need to know is anabolic steroids are not legal in athletics. As an aside, you don't need to know this. There are some clinical uses. So somebody with cancer can benefit from taking testosterone, but that's a clinical health use, not for everyday athletes. You can read about, again, just ignore these random circles. My apologies. You can read about the applications. I'm not going to test you on this. They can be given orally, intramuscularly through an injection. There are patches. Many people stack, not just with other things, but take many different steroids at once. If someone is taking anabolic steroids, they need to be on a cycle where they take it for a while and then come off of it, because the body cannot handle too much over a long period of time. You can read about this. This is also extra. There's some old statistics, but you might be surprised when studies have been done. And again, how accurate can these studies be? Because a lot of people probably aren't going to report accurately. They're probably going to lie. But you might be surprised that a lot of people who are taking testosterone to build muscle are middle-aged men, non-competitive bodybuilders who just want to look better, feel better, whatever. Okay. All right. I want to continue with a couple more, and then we'll go into a second video just to break this up. Again, I am circling only what you need to know. Let's talk about growth hormone. Growth hormone is a hormone produced naturally by the body, just like testosterone. So here we have two hormones produced naturally by the body. To review, testosterone, a hormone produced naturally by the body that has anabolic effects that can help us build muscle. So the theory is, even though I produce some naturally, if I take more, maybe I can build more muscle. Well, this really isn't that different. Growth hormone is produced naturally by the body. Particularly growth hormone helps with growth of muscles and bones. It's a different type of hormone. Testosterone is a sex hormone that is released in high amounts at puberty to stimulate those secondary sex male characteristics in addition to some muscle growth. Growth hormone is produced in men and women in more similar amounts. Growth hormone is a more regular, steady hormone that is released to maintain muscle and bone growth and remodeling over time. Okay, that's extra. Really, I'm just gonna grows. But the thinking is similar. If growth hormone naturally helps my bones and muscles grow, if I take more, maybe it can help me with performance. So in the body, it stimulates muscle and bone growth. It does have some other effects. You don't need to know these two. The one that I would like you to know is that growth hormone stimulates growth in muscles and bones. Another effect of growth hormone is that it actually helps you to burn more fat, which is cool and a good thing in our body a lot of times. But you only need to know for us in this course, it stimulates bone and muscle growth. So the idea being, in athletes, if I bring in additional human growth hormone, maybe I can do higher intensity training, perform better, and another potential benefit is recovery. So we've got two potential ergogenic effects. I can train more with intensity and or duration, and I can have better recovery. You need to know what I'm pointing out. So the two potential ergogenic effects, or effects to athletes and performance of taking additional human growth hormone, would be to train better, train more, either a higher intensity and or more duration, and a better recovery. What does the science say? No significant difference. So I'd like you to know that for each of these ergogenic aids also. We talked about testosterone. Have scientific studies shown that testosterone can help performance? Yes. But now we're talking about HGH. Have scientific studies shown consistently that HGH can help performance? No. No to performance and training. The only potential benefit that we've seen might be more related to recovery. So I'm going to put maybe. The evidence that we do have is a little bit stronger, pointing to better recovery, meaning after a workout session, when I'm recovering the next 24, 48 hours, 72 hours, having more human growth hormone may help me recover better, maybe. So what we can see here is more is not always better. It was the case for testosterone, yes. In terms of building muscle, more does make you build more muscle. Absolutely. But growth hormone, sometimes your body produces a certain amount for a reason. And just because we bring in more does not necessarily mean that it's going to improve performance. This can have a lot of reasons. One example is that we only have a certain number of receptors for these hormones. So even if I bring in more from a supplement or an ergogenic aid, there may not be enough receptors. So the extra growth hormone just ends up staying in the bloodstream, then we pee it out. Doesn't work, really, so far. Maybe the most promising area is recovery. Safety, it seems to be reasonably safe, but like I'm saying, with hormones, you really got to worry. This growth hormone goes everywhere, and it's not quite the same as just taking some whey protein. You know, whey protein powder, as we're going to find out later in the next chapter, has not been scientifically proven to work. When we have athletes take in whey protein versus a placebo, there is no significant difference, time and time again. However, whey protein seems pretty safe, okay? So you could make an argument, well, if I feel like it's working for me and it's safe, what's the big deal? Okay. You know, we can have that discussion. However, when it's coming to these hormones, there's much more potential for negative side effects. I just want you to know that. So you don't need to know anything from this slide, but I'm just talking some extra. Now, before we end this first part of the lecture, I've been looking online more, and as I pulled this up, you know, this wasn't out here 10 years ago. Maximum HGH powder. Well, if you look at this, you think, oh, it's got human growth hormone. I think I went to Google and I put in human growth hormone supplement. Came up. But when I looked at the label and I looked at the ingredients, none of those is human growth hormone. Most of these are amino acids. Wait a minute, protein? Amino acids are not the same as the hormone, human growth hormone. And then I looked under other ingredients. None. So this does not have any growth hormone in it. And I was a little confused, so I looked at other powders and similar pills, and pretty much all of them had a similar ingredient label. They do not actually have HGH. So I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, because I do worry about the safety of actual HGH coming in. But for marketing purposes, if you don't take a minute to look at the label, you just might not realize that. And I'm sure that's the case. People take this thinking, oh, I'm taking HGH. No, you're not. You're taking a bunch of amino acids, which quite frankly may not be that different from a branched chain amino acid, ergogenic aid. So I did some more research, and here was one part of the label from this particular website, but they also had this from the same website. They say, Maximum HGH powder is a free-form amino acid supplement, and it supports growth hormone levels. So they're telling you right here, it doesn't actually contain human growth hormone. It contains amino acids that may support your own growth hormone level. So by taking this, it's supposed to naturally boost your growth hormone natural production, which is not the same as an injection like this top one. Have these particular amino acids been shown to improve your own growth hormone production? No. Look, maximum HGH powder is a safe, cost-effective approach to increasing both the storage and release of the body's own HGH. But then, these statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. They don't work. So, just some things to make you think, right? Does it actually contain the hormone or just other amino acids? Because you might as well just take an amino acid supplement. All right, I'm going to come back for the second part of this video. Study hard. Let me know if you have any questions.